There's no evidence that she's trans, and there's not even really any evidence that she's intersex. The amount of conservatives believing this bullshit is crazy. Is it? Is it kind of mental? Is it kind of mind-numbingly insane? Yeah, it's unprecedented. It's never been this crazy. How much can we learn about this in 1 hour? Should we do that? Guys, we have crash landed. We have crash landed in meme country now. This is uncharted, okay? This is chaos, okay? People are dying. People are losing their minds. Everyone's eating their own cousin to try and survive. How did it come to this? How did it... So you have a boxer who's disqualified on the grounds, on the accusation that she has XY chromosomes. She's not even formally, no one formal has accused her of being trans, kind of. Well, we don't know. Someone might have. Someone professional might have. We'll get to that. But no, mostly they're calling her a man because she might have, because someone said she has XY chromosomes. That's all the evidence you have, because someone said she has. We don't even know if she has XY chromosomes. The fuck? Which is amazing, because women can have XY chromosomes. You can have Swyer syndrome. You can have, what's the other one called? It begins with an M. I don't know. They're rare conditions. What's interesting though about women with XY chromosomes, some of them can have hyperandrogeneity. Is that it? Why does that sound weird to me? Hyperandrogenism. Okay, yeah. Yeah, they can have very elevated levels of testosterone, maybe even male levels. In House, they do mention an episode like that. But in House, they actually they do this whole thing, because House is like pre-2016, right? So they find a patient who is a woman with XY chromosomes, and then they start acting really confused about whether to call her a he or a she. In the real world, though, in the medical world, if you are a woman with XY chromosomes, like that's it. You have XY chromosomes, you might have high levels of testosterone, but all else equal, like you're just going to be called a woman. That's it. Yeah. You are going to have other issues, like you're almost always going to be infertile, but there have been cases of women with XY chromosomes who have been able to give birth. There have been cases. Yeah. Which means that anyone who has decided that XY chromosomes make you a man are now admitting that men can give birth. Men can get pregnant, men can give birth. It's a funny world we live in. Okay. That's what I mean. We're in meme island. J.K. Rowling, known feminist, because that's why she hates trans people, right? That's why she attacks trans people and trans activism and trans rights, because it's to protect women. Until today, because now she's decided to call a woman a man because she has XY chromosomes. Maybe. We don't know. We'll get to that. Apparently 6 months ago, she said otherwise. You've asked me several questions in this thread and accused me of avoiding answering, so here goes. I believe a woman is a human being who belongs to the sex class that produces large gametes. It's irrelevant whether or not her gametes have ever been fertilized, whether or not she's carried a baby to term. Irrelevant if she was born with a rare difference of sexual development that makes neither of the above possible. Okay, that's true with XY. Or if she's aged beyond being able to produce viable eggs. She is a woman, just as much a woman as others. Do they mention chromosomes in here? What's her criteria for being a woman then? There's a kind of a hierarchy of conservative and anti-trans intelligence, right? The bottom of the pyramid is the people who say, "Oh, got a dick or a fanny," right? Which is very problematic, because there are loads of exceptions to those. And then you got kind of like the middle ground, which is chromosomes. Because chromosomes is a long word. It sounds scientific. Karyotypes. Ben Shapiro. And that's problematic because you can have XY, be a woman. You can have XX and ovaries, but a fully virilized penis, and doctors will often call you a man, and you'll call yourself a man. You'll identify as a male. So then you get to the last stage, the fucking final boss, who say, producer of the large and small gamete. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. So in sex, that's usually, like in science, that's what sex means, right? You got the large and the small gamete. That's how we do it in nature. That's how we do it with animals and shit. Like, okay. Yeah. And you do have exceptions to that as well. There are cases of... but it's probably the one with the least exceptions, if you go by that rule. But with J.K. Rowling, I don't actually know what she's saying here. So, taking up boxing. Born in a body that, assuming nothing has gone wrong with her physical development, which stated above, doesn't stop her being a woman. Yeah, so that would be XY. The boxer has lost 5 fights to other women. Italian boxer just had a skill issue. She missed a jab and left herself wide open to a strong right hook. Well, whatever. Listen, we don't care about boxing, okay? We care about angry conservatives on the internet. That's what I care about. I don't give a fuck about boxing. We got the summary from the BBC. Algeria's Imane Khelif and Taiwan's Lin Yuting have been cleared to compete at the Paris Olympics despite being disqualified from last year's World Championship after they were said to have failed gender eligibility tests. Khelif is through to the quarterfinals of the women's 66 kilogram category after beating Italy's Angela Carini, while Lin reached the last 8 of the women's 57 kilogram category, with victory over Uzbekistan's Sitora Tordebekova. Okay. Their participation in the Games has proved controversial given their disqualifications in 2023. Their participation in the Games has proved controversial given their disqualifications in 2023. Kelly's bout, which was abandoned after 46 seconds by Carini, has led to some criticizing the International Olympic Committee for allowing the entry of a boxer who had previously been said to have failed to meet gender eligibility criteria. Italian Carini said she ended the fight to preserve her life, but apologized to her Algerian opponent on Friday. Okay. Wow. Italians. Khelif, speaking after her victory, said, "I'm here for the gold. I fight everybody." Sigma. Toddlers. 8-year-olds. Cats. The International Boxing Association, IBA, who were the previous organizers of Olympic boxing, have been vocal critics of the IOC's decision to permit the two athletes to compete. Here, BBC Sports takes you through some of the key questions around the topic. What sex was Khelif assigned at birth? Was she born biologically male or female? Khelif has always competed in the women's division and is recognized by the International IOC, the International Olympics Committee, as a female athlete. The Algerian boxer was born female, was registered female, lived her life as a female, boxes as a female, has a female passport, IOC spokesperson Mark Adams said on Friday. This is not a transgender case. There has been some confusion that somehow it's a man fighting a woman, but this is not the case. On that, there is consensus. Scientifically, this is not a man fighting a woman. Khelif has spoken about her experiences of growing up as a girl in Algeria and the prejudice she faced playing football alongside boys. Don't let obstacles come in your way. Resist any obstacles and overcome them. My dream is to win a gold medal, she said in March 2024. If I win, mothers and fathers can see how far their children can go. I particularly want to inspire girls and children who are disadvantaged in Algeria. There's no suggestion Khelif identifies as anything other than a woman. What is her boxing career to date? Khelif, 25, has been boxing for 8 years. The Algerian made her debut on the world amateur stage at 19 when she came 17th at the 2018 World Championships. A year later, Khelif came 19th in the 2019 Women's World Boxing Championships. She made her Olympic debut at the 2020 Games in Tokyo. Fighting in the 60-kilogram lightweight division, Khelif was beaten 5-0 at the quarterfinal stage by Ireland's eventual gold medalist, Kelly Harrington. Ooh. She then became the first Algerian boxer to win a world championship medal, taking silver in 2022 after losing the final to Ireland's Amy Broadhurst, who now represents Britain. Khelif followed that by winning the 2022 African Championships and 2022 Mediterranean Games. Damn. No match for the Irish, eh? The Irish bare-knuckle boxing champions. Harder than a coffin nail. All right. In 2023, she won gold at the Arab Games in the 66-kilogram division, earned her place in the 2024 Games by beating Mozambique's Alcinda Pequena. Okay. The Russian-led IBA said, said Khelif failed to meet the eligibility criteria for participating in women's competition and set and laid out in the IBA regulations. According to the IBA regulations, boxers will compete against boxers of the same gender, meaning women versus women and men versus men. As per the definition of these rules, the IBA defines a woman, female or girl, as an individual with chromosome XX and men, males or boys, as an individual with chromosome XY. Okay, so these guys are illiterate, basically. These guys, so I can already tell that unless that's the IBA, they might know something I don't, chromosomes would not be what you would look for. I think you would look for testosterone levels, no? Because you can have XY as a woman, but not have hyperandrogenism. You don't have that necessarily. Even that, I don't actually know if you have hyperandrogenism, elevated testosterone as a cis woman or as a woman even with XY, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be like male strength, right? Because there's more to it than just testosterone, right? Because I think if you have elevated testosterone as a woman, you're also going to have things that would hold you, like you will have more opportunity for like protein synthesis and muscle mass, but you'll also, I think they also have high levels of obesity. And also like mood swings and issues with menstrual cycles and other things that would affect your performance too. So there's probably, I don't think it's going to be quite as simple as just their testosterone levels, but it matters more than just your chromosomes, all right? However, in an interview with BBC Sports director Dan Rowan on Thursday, IBA chief executive Chris Roberts said XY chromosomes were found in both cases. Roberts said there were different strands involved in that, and therefore the body could not commit to referring to Khelif as biologically male. The IOC have raised doubts over the accuracy of the tests. We do not know what the protocol was. We do not know whether the test was accurate. We don't know whether we should believe the test, the IOC spokesperson Adams said. There's a difference between a test taking place and whether we accept the accuracy or even the protocol of the test. The BBC has been unable to determine what the eligibility tests consisted of. Okay. What has changed in Olympic boxing regulation and governance since the IBA's decision? Unlike previous games, boxing at the Tokyo Olympics was organized by the International Olympic Committee, IOC, rather than the IBA. The IOC suspended the IBA in 2019 due to concerns over its finances. Having failed to meet required reforms set out by the IOC, the IBA was stripped of its status as the world's governing body in 2023. That decision was upheld in April 2024 by the Court of Arbitration for Sport following an appeal. The IOC's decision to strip the IBA of its status came 4 months after the body disqualified Khelif in Taiwan's Lin Yu-ting from the 2023 World Championships. In 2021, the IOC released a framework on fairness, inclusion, and non-discrimination on the basis of gender identity and sex variation. The document set out 10 principles, not rules, for national bodies to follow when selecting athletes for the Games. The IOC said it supports the participation of any athlete who has qualified and met the eligibility criteria to compete in the Olympic Games as established by their IF, International Federation. The IOC will not discriminate against an athlete who is qualified through their IF on the basis of gender identity and/or sex characteristics. What testing is conducted in boxing? In 2019, the IOC delegated responsibility for the organization and management of doping control at the Olympics to the International Testing Agency. Damn, more people, more wankers, okay. The IOC said they take a zero-tolerance policy to anyone found using or providing doping products. Tests include, but are not excluded to, determining an athlete's levels of testosterone. So the Russian guys didn't check her testosterone, but the IOC delegated organization did. Okay. But they also say there are many women with higher levels of testosterone than men, said IBA Chief Executive Roberts. So the idea that a testosterone test is a magic bullet is actually not true. Okay. So I guess it's not a magic bullet, but it probably matters, is what I'm extrapolating from that. Is this a transgender debate? No. There is no suggestion that Khelif identifies as transgender or intersex. Straight to the point. Okay. Bam. What are these guidelines? Which part of it matters? Okay. Prevention of harm, non-discrimination, evidence-based approach, health, bodily autonomy. What do they say about testosterone and gender? The framework is not for or against any one approach to regulating eligibility for sex-segregated competition. In the case of eligibility criteria for trans athletes, for example, it neither endorses nor prohibits the use of testosterone levels. The IOC recognizes that testosterone could be an important factor in shaping performance in elite athletes. However, the limitations of testosterone-based eligibility criteria are widely recognized in the sports science community. In addition to testosterone levels varying across individuals, existing evidence suggests that the relevance of testosterone to athletic performance will vary from sport to sport and, at times, even from event to event. This includes considerable variation among cisgender male athletes, even in elite sport, where it has been demonstrated some men have testosterone levels considered by sports bodies to be in what some experts consider to be the normal woman's range. In other words, athletic performance varies independently of an individual's athlete's testosterone levels. There is thus no scientific consensus on how testosterone levels can be used across sports to define unfair and disproportionate advantage. Some trans people will pursue gender affirming care as part of their individual transition journey. It may be reasonable to take such choices into account when assessing eligibility, such as when trans women have lowered their testosterone levels in sports where it is established that testosterone levels are relevant to mitigating potential performance advantage. However, ifs should avoid drafting eligibility criteria in a way that may pressure or incentivize athletes to undergo medically unnecessary procedures or treatment that would not otherwise pursue for their own gender identity, health, or well-being reasons. Ultimately, the framework asks that any eligibility criteria be based on assessment of unfair and disproportionate advantage that is informed by the specificities of a given sport/discipline/event, is supported by appropriate data, and is consistent with the framework as a whole. That's probably the thing that matters, no? Do we have anything about chromosomes? I don't think it would, right? Karyotypes? No. Yeah, they would. You wouldn't. It doesn't matter. It shouldn't. Because it's not just chromosomes. What matters, especially in terms of intersex, what matters is whether or not it actually produces activity, which is probably the most fucking scientific way you could possibly phrase it. What do they want? An autopsy? Probably not, but Olympic boxer who faced gender eligibility claim wins, igniting outcry. Okay. Paris. An outcry erupted at the Paris Committee around Paris Olympics around the presence of two female boxers who were disqualified by the International Boxing Association at last year's World Championships in New Delhi for what the organization said at the time was a failure to meet eligibility rules. IBA President Umar Kremlev told the Russian news agency TASS last year the disqualifications were because it was proven they have XY chromosomes. The International Boxing Association leadership has excluded athletes who tried to pass themselves off as women from the list of participants in the Women's World Championship in India. This was announced to TASS on Saturday by the organization's president, Umar Kremlev. The Women's World Championships are taking place in New Delhi from March 15th to 26th. Based on the results of DNA tests, we identified a number of athletes who tried to deceive their colleagues and pretend to be women. Based on the test results, it was proven that they have XY chromosomes. Such athletes were excluded from the competition. I love this. Deceived their colleagues and pretended to be women. It's a lot of ascription of malice there. Right. Boof. The issue, which had been simmering for a few days around the games, blew up Thursday after one of the two women, Algeria's Imane Khelif, won her opening bout. Okay, powerful punch to the nose. Bam, bam. It remains unclear what standards Khelif and Lin Yu-Ting of Taiwan failed last year to lead to disqualifications. The IOC, which is overseeing the boxing competition in Paris, does not test for gender, and there's never been evidence that either Khelif or Lin had XY chromosomes or elevated levels of testosterone. They have competed for years, including at the Tokyo Olympics and several World Championships. So that means that Tokyo Olympics was 2020? So that means she competed before the guidelines were changed. 2021, it got postponed. Okay. Well, I'm guessing the testing would have happened before the postponement, no? In his comments to TASS in 2023, Kremlev said two boxers were given DNA tests. In the minutes of the IBA's board of directors meeting held 2 days after the women were disqualified, George A. Yerolimpos, the organization's CEO and secretary general at the time, told the attendees the women had failed tests conducted by an independent laboratory. He told the meeting's attendees that both women had failed a different test conducted by a different laboratory at the previous year's World Championships in Istanbul, but that the results had come too late for the fighters to be disqualified. The meeting's minutes do not say what kind of test had been administered nor the name of the laboratory. Yerolimpos told the meeting that he closely followed the women's testing as soon as they arrived in India. In a statement this week, the IBA said the women did not undergo a testosterone examination, but a separate and recognized test. The statement added that the test and results are confidential. In a statement issued Thursday evening... So wait, this guy, I thought this was two people when I was reading this. What was the guy's name? Yerolimpos, he's the CEO and Secretary General. So apparently, I know the complaint from the IOC was that this was just an arbitrary top-down decision. Like it was just him who said, like, fuck these guys. Yeah. But we'll see what the minutes say as well. Throughout the week, IOC officials have said they have no reason to keep either boxer from the Olympics. Several times, IOC spokesman Mark Adams has cautioned that the controversy involves real people and stressed that this is not a transgender issue. Okay. A person with knowledge of last year's disqualifications from words but not authorized to speak publicly called Khelif and Lin's banishments classic IBA disinformation. 3 people familiar with the details of the women's case pointed out that the disqualifications came 3 days after Khelif defeated Russian Azalia Amineva and a day after she won her semi-final bout in the 63 to 66 kilogram category. Can't do conspiracy theories though. No conspiracy theories yet, okay? Fed up by a history of judging and bribery scandals involving the IBA, even before Kremlev was elected as the organization's president in 2020, the IOC took control of Olympic boxing at the Tokyo Games. It became suspicious when Kremlev spent heavily on marketing himself, lined up only one sponsor, the Russian energy company Gazprom, and battled with Olympic leaders. The IOC took control of the boxing competition at the Paris Games as well, and it has left the sport off the program for the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. 3 months after Lin and Khelif were disqualified, the IOC decertified the IBA, okay? Another organization, World Boxing, supported by the United States, Dutch, and several other Western countries, has emerged as a potential replacement for the IBA. In the 14 months since, relations between the IOC and IBA have deteriorated further. On Thursday, Kremlev posted a video on X criticizing the Paris Games opening ceremonies and called IOC President Thomas Bach a chief sodomite. Oh, no. Give me that. Hey. The Olympic Games are outright sodomy and the destruction of traditional values throughout the world, and Thomas Bach is responsible for this. Okay, so he's a bit unhinged. Despite the suspect credibility of last year's disqualifications and the fact that neither boxer is transgender, several high-profile critics of transgender athletes issued seized on the results of the fight, as well as comments made by Carini, who told reporters it could be the match of my life, had to safeguard my life too, Within an hour of the fight, social media was alive with posts blasting Khelif and Lin, as well as the IOC, which has run boxing at the Olympics for the past 2 games after years of corruption battles involving the IBA. In comments to the La Gazzetta dello Sport on Thursday, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said the fight was unfair, basically citing Khelif's testosterone levels. Okay? The Prime Minister, bro. The fuck? Tennis legend Martina Navratilova said on X, "This is all on the IOC and the people in power who make the rules. It's a travesty and a mockery of all Olympic sports." This is an old story. Boxing's Olympic future remains very much in doubt after members of the sport's governing body, the International Boxing Association, voted against holding a presidential election last weekend, reaffirming the leadership of its controversial president, Imane Khelif. Concern about allegations of corruption inside the IBA and a match-fixing scandal at the 2016 Rio Olympics, the International Olympic Committee has left boxing off the initial program for the 2028 Los Angeles Games. The IOC officials have left open the possibility of restoring boxing when the final LA program is completed next September or October, but have repeated concerns about the way Khelif, a Russian sports executive, is leading the IBA. The IOC oversaw the boxing competition at the Tokyo Olympics and announced earlier this year that it would do so again for Paris after the 2024, after the IBA disqualified Dutch boxing official Boris van der Vorst from a previous presidential election that Khelif then won unopposed. The Court of Arbitration for Sport, CAS, later ruled that van der Horst shouldn't have been disqualified, setting up Sunday's vote, which many saw as perhaps a last chance for boxing to remain at the Olympics after Paris. But after IBA members voted against holding an election, 106 to 36, Khelif remains in his position. Though Khelif has promised to reform the IBA, he has alarmed IOC officials by moving much of the organization's operations from Lausanne, Switzerland to Russia, has spent heavily on marketing that appeared to promote himself, and has resisted calls for an outside organization to handle the assignment of judges and referees at sports. Damn. Why would they do that? The IOC also expressed worry that the IBA's lone sponsor is Russian energy company Gazprom, which has supported Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In a statement, the IOC said it was extremely concerned the IBA did not hold a presidential election and said its executive board will have to fully review the situation at its next meeting. The IBA continued to say it wants boxing to remain in the Olympics, but Khelif seemed to signal a move away from the Games in a speech to the IBA members on Sunday, saying, "We shouldn't say Olympic boxing, we should say IBA boxing." This is the minutes of their meeting. The board asked for clarification as to why this issue was being brought up at the end of the championships when the concerned athletes already made their way through different stages of the event. Secretary General and CEO explained that the testing was conducted upon request of the technical delegate and the medical jury of the championships. The results became available in 7 days, and the IBA's General and Secretary CEO, acting on behalf of the IBA, notified the athletes immediately about their disqualification. Okay, similar testing. This is their public statement. Oh, I've noticed there are some articles, like the Associated Press and a few others, that actually said that they did do testosterone testing. They didn't. There are some mainstream, like high reputation, reputable mainstream media outlets are saying that these guys did a testosterone test, but even they say that they didn't. So that's interesting. IBA just shows how the mainstream media have nothing on this unqualified streamer. Well done, guys. You guys are really clever for coming to this channel, okay? I'll do this one. This one seems to have a couple of relevant things we haven't done yet. IOC responds to gender test scandal. The Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Let's go. Hey. Defended his decision, disqualified hours before her gold medal bout in New Delhi. They prevent athletes with male XY chromosomes. IBA stripped of recognition. Heavy punch, 46 seconds. According to the IBA minutes available on their website, the decision was initially taken solely by the IBA and CEO. Some sports have limited the levels of testosterone levels allowed for athletes competing in women's competition, while others ban everyone who has been through male puberty. Because we know this because the guidelines are left up to different sports, right? Differences in sex development are a group of rare conditions involving genes, hormones, and reproductive organs. Some people with DSDs are raised as female but have XY sex chromosomes and blood testosterone levels in the male range. Eligibility based on those of the Tokyo Games. Do we know exactly what the rules were? I know apparently they said that it would have involved testosterone because of that thing about 2019, right? The International Testing Agency. The current aggression against these two athletes is based entirely on this arbitrary decision, which was taken without any proper procedure, especially considering that these athletes had been competing in top-level competition for many years. The IOC is saddened by the abuse that the two athletes are currently receiving. Every person has the right to practice sport without discrimination. In a statement, the IBA condemned inconsistencies of eligibility at the Paris Games. The urgent nature of this decision to disqualify boxers was justified. A paper on the role of Y chromosomes in elite female. Pretty specific. At present, it is widely assumed that hyperandrogenism in female athletes confers an unfair competitive advantage. This view is perpetuated in current regulations governing eligibility of female athletes with hyperandrogenism to compete, which identify testosterone levels in the male range as the critical factor. Detailed evidence is presented here for the first time that genes for stature, and possibly other genes on the Y chromosome, are responsible for the increased frequency of 46XY disorder of sex development among elite female athletes identified by eligibility tests. In many cases, androgens are non-functional or alternatively absent, and therefore testosterone cannot be responsible for their athletic success. Genetic variation has a major role in the selection of individuals for training and success in competition. However, this variation is not grounds for determining who should compete in athletic events. There is no convincing evidence to support the view that hyperandrogenism is associated with performance advantage in female athletes. Now, I have heard that there are people who disagree with this, like scientists disagree with this, but it makes sense that it wouldn't be like an automatic thing because hyperandrogenism can affect you in all kinds of positive and negative ways. I think like it can produce like things that would debilitate, like obesity is one fucking like side effect, right? Like you gain weight, like fat really quickly through it. Anyway, current time-consuming regulations may lead to unwelcome resurgence of innuendo in the media and coercion of female athletes into accepting gonadectomy and other treatments which might otherwise not have been subjected. To which they might not be subjected. Okay, these regulations should be withdrawn on the grounds that they are not supported scientifically, are discriminatory towards women, and place some female athletes at risk of unnecessary and potentially harmful investigations. Improved understanding about genetic factors that lead to selection in sport should offer reassurance that women with hyperandrogenism possess no physical attribute relevant to athletic performance that is neither attainable nor present in other women. Okay, there we go. That's it. This is basically all you need. Okay. All right. So I'm going to tell you what we've learned just from reading all this, and that'll be our 1 hour challenge. Okay. Done. Whilst also, taking notes and reading out loud and shit. Okay. So what we know is that a couple of years ago, this person, 2023, last year, this person is disqualified by the IBA, which seems to be run by a very dubious Russian boss. They are sponsored by one organization, which is Gazprom, like the Russian state-owned energy firm. The guy and the organization, the IBA, have been involved in like corruption scandals. They've been accused of match fixing in 2016. They've been since disassociated by the International Olympics Committee. But these guys decided that this one woman, Khelif, the Algerian, was not eligible for boxing because she is a man, according to her. A man pretending to be a woman. That's what they said. And they said that because she has XY chromosomes. They did not check her testosterone levels. They never said they checked her testosterone levels. They just said that she had XY chromosomes, but they are refusing to disclose any further details about the testing. So the IOC basically just says this is not good enough. Like, this is not adequate grounds for letting someone go. The way the decision was taken seems very arbitrary and without due process. The only people who seem to have, based on reading this, that did check her testosterone levels would have been the International Testing Agency, which was delegated by the Olympics Committee, because they do test for testosterone levels. But they also say that testosterone tests are not the magic bullet. Testosterone testing is part of an overall check to see if they are eligible or not. So, long story short, there's no evidence that she has XY chromosomes, nor is there any evidence that she is ineligible for competing in the match that she did. And the fact that the IBA claimed to have based this decision on chromosomes without checking her hormone levels suggests that they don't know anything, right? That this is like something they've made up. Because if you have XY chromosomes as a woman, but your testosterone levels are fine, those chromosomes mean nothing. The one reason that people suggest XY chromosomes would affect your performance is because it would result in hyperandrogenism, like you would produce male levels of testosterone. So the fact that they didn't even check her testosterone levels, and they're not even claiming to have checked her testosterone levels, is like, this is obviously just an arbitrary decision. Now, why they made the arbitrary decision, we can only guess. One suggestion, though, is that this decision was made only 3 days after she defeated a Russian boxer in the championships in New Delhi. And 1 day after she won the semi-final. And this has resulted in the most bizarre, because usually when conservatives get mad about sports stuff and gender issues and all that, it's usually based on we know that Leah Thomas is trans, okay? And we know that people who are trans women have gone through male puberty will have like the potential of retaining some advantages. I think after 2 or 3 years of HRT, they can lose the advantages. They can lose some of the advantages. But we know that there's a debate there. We know that that exists. This is nothing. This is based on absolutely nothing. Because some incredibly untrustworthy board of this headed by this Russian dude at the IBA subjected to someone to a very arbitrary and sudden decision based on undisclosed evidence with very little detail that she has a quality to her that doesn't even necessarily affect her performance. They just decided that because she's XY, they just decided that. That's it. That's what we've learned. And it just took an hour to go through that. Like, this is one of the most insane stories I've ever, what the That's unbelievable. Testosterone gives an advantage in certain sports. Yeah, and the IOC acknowledges that. Yeah, 100%. But they also say that it's not. You shouldn't just use testosterone as a kind of like your single rule of thumb. There are absolutely different variables, but it's just funny that the Russian guys didn't even check. They didn't even claim to check testosterone levels. They didn't bother. And now we have Rowling. The idea that those objecting to a male punching a female in the name of sport are objecting because they believe Khelif to be trans is a joke. We object because we saw a male punching a female. We got a feminist icon is basically just calling a woman a man. That's it. Yeah. Sorry. I wonder what this will do to the people who defer uncritically to the UN, to UN representatives. This person, Reem Al-Salim, the UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women. It's a violence against women. I don't know what the G is. Anyway, she said that Carini rightly followed her instincts and prioritized her physical safety, but she and other female athletes should not have been exposed to this physical and psychological violence based on their sex. Oh, women and girls. Okay. Right, it's a boxing match. What did you expect? A fucking full body massage with a happy ending. It's a boxing match. Conservatives single-handedly discovering the complexities of sex and gender all by themselves. It's not like anyone tried to tell them. How can you be a biological woman if you have XY chromosomes? Why are you all like this? Crying, laughing emoji, crying emoji. Dr. Sydney Watson. This is apparently the referee telling Carini's coach before the fight that if he's not happy, they can leave. I've never seen so much get made out of so little. Do you know that? And people might say that about all kinds of different issues at different times. People might say that multiple times a year. If I ever say that again about something, just remind me of this. What a bizarre. If there's nothing else, there's the culture war. There you go. That is anti-trans people who have finally discovered the intricacies of sex and gender in the dumbest way imaginable. I guess the thing, if I was going to go for longer than an hour of research, I would probably read the whole IOC guidelines and what they say about testosterone. I would see what the specific boxing ones are, because I think they give a lot of discretion to individual sports. They don't tell each sport or country what to do. They just give them guidelines and principles. I wonder for boxing, I think because the standard they're using is from the Tokyo Games. I wonder what the Tokyo Games people actually, what their protocol was. What is Major League Base saying? A hermaphrodite with XY chromosomes and testes producing testosterone should not be competing with women in the Olympics. Where is he getting this from? Why does he think this? What the fuck? What What's happening? What this is what I mean. Like the different realities, man. It's not editorializing. He's just like added a whole bunch of shit in there. He's actually probably looking at the pictures of her shorts with one fucking crease in it that makes it look like she has a knob, right? Like that's what he's looking at. What an absolute state. Eek.